On February 6, 2011, a seemingly innocuous post appeared on a Bitcoin forum that would eventually lead to one of the most significant law enforcement operations in the digital age. The username Altoid announced the launch of a new online marketplace called Silk Road, promising anonymity and freedom from government interference. Little did the poster know that this single digital breadcrumb would become the first thread in an investigative tapestry that would ultimately unravel a global criminal enterprise and revolutionize how law enforcement tracks digital currencies. The genesis of what would become known as the crypto-forensics revolution began not with sophisticated algorithms or cutting-edge technology, but with a simple mistake in operational security. The individual behind the Altoid username had made a critical error that would echo through the annals of digital forensics. They had used the same handle across multiple platforms, eventually linking it to an email address that contained their real name. This fundamental oversight would prove to be the crack in the armor that investigators would exploit years later. During the early months of 2011, as Bitcoin was still emerging from the shadows of cryptographic theory into practical application, few understood the permanent and immutable nature of blockchain technology. Every transaction, every movement of digital currency was being recorded on a distributed ledger that would serve as an indelible record of financial activity. While criminals believed they had found the perfect tool for anonymous transactions, they were unknowingly creating an evidence trail more comprehensive than any traditional financial system had ever produced. On March 15, 2011, the first recorded transaction occurred on Silk Road, marking the beginning of what would become a $1.2 billion criminal marketplace. The transaction was small, worth approximately $15 in Bitcoin at the time, but it represented a seismic shift in how illegal commerce would be conducted. The buyer, operating under the pseudonym Couple Highoff, purchased a small quantity of cannabis from a vendor calling themselves Amsterdam Marijuana. Neither party realized that their transaction details were being permanently etched into the Bitcoin blockchain, creating an immutable record that investigators would later use to trace the money trail back to its source. The early days of Silk Road were characterized by a sense of invincibility among its users. The combination of Tor browser technology for accessing the hidden marketplace and Bitcoin for conducting transactions seemed to create an impenetrable shield of anonymity. Users operated under colorful pseudonyms, vendors hawked their illegal wares with impunity, and the marketplace's administrator, known only as Dread Pirate Roberts, cultivated an almost mythical persona as a digital Robin Hood fighting against government oppression. However, unbeknownst to the marketplace's users, the foundations of modern blockchain forensics were being laid during this period. Academic researchers like Sarah Meiklejohn at the University of California, San Diego, were beginning to understand that Bitcoin's pseudonymous nature was not synonymous with anonymity. In her groundbreaking 2013 paper, A Fistful of Bitcoins, Characterizing Payments Among Men with No Names, Meiklejohn and her colleagues demonstrated that Bitcoin transactions could be traced and linked to real-world identities through careful analysis of blockchain data and external information sources. On October 1, 2013, the myth of digital anonymity came crashing down when FBI agents arrested Ross William Ulbricht at the Glen Park Library in San Francisco. The 29-year-old physics graduate student from Texas had been living a double life as the administrator of Silk Road under the alias Dread Pirate Roberts. The arrest was the culmination of a 2.5-year investigation that had relied heavily on blockchain analysis to track Bitcoin transactions from the marketplace back to Ulbricht's personal accounts. The FBI's investigation had begun not with sophisticated blockchain analysis tools, which barely existed at the time, but with traditional investigative techniques combined with the immutable record provided by the Bitcoin blockchain. Investigators had identified the connection between the Altoid forum posts promoting Silk Road and Ulbricht's personal email address. From there, they began the painstaking process of tracing Bitcoin transactions, following the digital money trail as it flowed from user wallets to the marketplace and eventually to Ulbricht's personal accounts. Court documents later revealed the extent of the blockchain forensic work that had gone into building the case against Ulbricht. Between February 2011 and July 2013, the site facilitated sales amounting to 9,519,664 bitcoins, representing hundreds of millions of dollars in illicit transactions. Each of these transactions left a permanent trace on the blockchain, creating a comprehensive financial record that prosecutors would use to demonstrate the scope of Ulbricht's criminal enterprise. The arrest sent shockwaves through the dark web community. For years, users had believed that the combination of Tor and Bitcoin provided bulletproof anonymity. The revelation that law enforcement had successfully traced cryptocurrency transactions back to real-world identities shattered this illusion and marked the beginning of a new era in digital forensics. On February 5, 2015, Ulbricht was convicted on 7 charges, including narcotics trafficking, computer hacking, and money laundering. The prosecution's case relied heavily on blockchain evidence, with forensic accountants testifying about the flow of Bitcoin through various addresses associated with Silk Road. The jury was presented with detailed transaction graphs showing how cryptocurrency moved from buyers to the marketplace and eventually to Ulbricht's personal wallets. This marked one of the first major criminal cases where blockchain forensics played a central role in securing a conviction. During the trial, prosecutors introduced evidence showing that Ulbricht had accumulated approximately 144,000 bitcoins through his operation of Silk Road. These funds had been traced through the blockchain using early forensic techniques that would later evolve into sophisticated automated analysis tools. The prosecution demonstrated how Ulbricht had attempted to launder the cryptocurrency through various means, including the use of Bitcoin mixing services, but that the blockchain's permanent record had preserved evidence of the original illicit transactions. The conviction represented a watershed moment for law enforcement agencies worldwide. It demonstrated that cryptocurrency crimes could be successfully prosecuted and that the blockchain's immutable ledger could serve as a powerful evidentiary tool. However, the Silk Road case was just the beginning. The success of blockchain forensics in this high-profile case led to increased investment in forensic tools and techniques, setting the stage for even more sophisticated operations in the years to come. On July 5, 2017, the dark web ecosystem experienced another seismic shock. When Alphabay, which had grown to become the largest darknet marketplace in the world following Silk Road's closure, suddenly went offline. Alphabay owner was arrested in Thailand and his assets were seized by federal authorities. The arrest of Alexander Akazes, a 26-year-old Canadian citizen living in luxury in Bangkok, marked the beginning of Operation Bayonet, one of the most sophisticated international law enforcement operations ever conducted against dark web marketplaces. Kazes had believed himself to be untouchable, operating from what he perceived to be a safe haven in Southeast Asia while managing a criminal empire that facilitated millions of dollars in illegal transactions daily. Alphabay had grown exponentially since its launch in September 2014, capitalizing on the void left by Silk Road's closure. At its peak, the marketplace boasted over 400,000 users and 40,000 vendors, offering everything from illegal drugs and weapons to stolen data and malicious software. The investigation into Alphabay had begun years earlier as law enforcement agencies in the United States, Netherlands, Germany, and other countries began to coordinate their efforts to track the marketplace's operations. Their plan, in coordination with the FBI, was to absorb users coming over from the upcoming Alphabay shutdown, demonstrating the level of international cooperation that had developed in response to the global nature of darknet crime. Blockchain forensics played a crucial role in identifying Kazes and linking him to Alphabay's operations. Investigators had traced cryptocurrency transactions from the marketplace to various exchanges and wallet addresses, eventually identifying patterns that pointed to Kazes' real-world identity. The investigation revealed that Kazes had made several critical operational security mistakes, including using the same email address for both Alphabay operations and personal activities, and failing to properly obscure his cryptocurrency transactions. On July 12, 2017, tragedy struck the investigation when Kazes was found dead in his Thai prison cell, apparently having committed suicide while awaiting extradition to the United States. His death occurred just 1 week after his arrest and came as investigators were preparing to extract additional intelligence from seized Alphabay servers. The loss of Kazes as a potential cooperating witness was a significant blow to the investigation, but the digital evidence collected through blockchain forensics provided a comprehensive picture of the marketplace's operations. The death of Kazes highlighted the intense pressure that dark web administrators faced as law enforcement agencies became increasingly sophisticated in their use of blockchain forensics. The realization that cryptocurrency transactions could be traced and linked to real-world identities had fundamentally altered the risk-reward calculation for those operating illegal online marketplaces. On July 20, 2017, law enforcement agencies in the United States and Europe announced the successful completion of Operation Bayonet, which had resulted in the takedown of both Alphabay and Hansa Market. Months of preparation and coordination have resulted today, the 20th of July, 2017, in the takedown of two of the largest criminal dark web markets, Alphabay and Hansa. The coordinated operation represented a new level of international cooperation in combating darknet crime and demonstrated the effectiveness of combining traditional investigative techniques with cutting-edge blockchain forensics. The operation's success was built on years of painstaking blockchain analysis. Investigators had used advanced forensic tools to trace cryptocurrency flows from both marketplaces, identifying patterns and connections that revealed the true scope of their operations. The evidence collected included detailed transaction records showing how millions of dollars in Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies had flowed through the marketplaces, providing prosecutors with an unprecedented level of financial evidence. The Hansa Market component of the operation was particularly ingenious. Dutch police discovered the true location in 2016 and had been secretly operating the marketplace for nearly a month before the public announcement of its closure. During this time, they collected intelligence on thousands of users and vendors, creating a comprehensive database of dark web criminals that would fuel investigations for years to come. On September 12, 2017, the first wave of arrests resulting from Operation Bayonet began as law enforcement agencies in dozens of countries simultaneously executed search warrants and apprehended suspects identified through the investigation. The blockchain evidence collected from Alphabay and Hansa provided investigators with detailed financial records linking specific individuals to illegal activities on both platforms. Over 400 people were arrested in the months following the marketplace takedowns, with many more investigations launched based on the intelligence gathered. The blockchain forensic evidence proved crucial in these prosecutions, providing prosecutors with detailed transaction histories that demonstrated the scope and nature of each defendant's criminal activities. The success of Operation Bayonet led to increased investment in blockchain forensic capabilities by law enforcement agencies worldwide. Companies like Chainalysis, Elliptic, and Cyberblade emerged as leaders in providing specialized tools and services for tracking cryptocurrency transactions. Trusted by investigators worldwide, Reactor offers secure deployment options and exclusive capabilities for government agencies conducting sensitive and advanced investigations. On November 3, 2020, the U.S. Department of Justice announced the seizure of over $1 billion in Bitcoin connected to Silk Road, representing one of the largest cryptocurrency forfeitures in history. In 2013, law enforcement shut Silk Road down and arrested its owner and operator, Ross Ulbricht, who was also known as Dread Pirate Roberts. But investigators had continued to trace additional cryptocurrency connected to the marketplace through sophisticated blockchain analysis. The seizure was the result of a multi-year investigation that had used advanced blockchain forensic techniques to identify and trace Bitcoin addresses associated with Silk Road. The investigation revealed that an individual identified only as Individual X had somehow obtained access to a significant portion of Silk Road's Bitcoin holdings and had been sitting on the cryptocurrency for years. The case demonstrated the long-term investigative potential of blockchain evidence. Even years after a criminal marketplace had been shut down, investigators could continue to trace associated cryptocurrency transactions and identify additional criminal proceeds. The permanent and immutable nature of blockchain records meant that evidence could be preserved indefinitely, allowing for investigations that spanned multiple years or even decades. On November 7, 2022, the Department of Justice announced another major seizure connected to Silk Road, this time involving over $3.36 billion in cryptocurrency. "We will continue to work with our international partners," the DOJ stated, emphasizing the ongoing nature of blockchain forensic investigations. The seizure was connected to James Zhang, a Georgia man who had exploited a bug in Silk Road's systems to steal over 50,000 bitcoins from the marketplace. Zhang's case illustrated how blockchain forensics could be used to solve cold cases involving cryptocurrency theft. The department stated that James Zhang from Georgia pled guilty to committing wire fraud in September 2012 when he unlawfully obtained over 50,000 bitcoins from the darknet marketplace. The investigation had used advanced clustering algorithms and transaction pattern analysis to identify Zhang as the individual responsible for the theft, even though the crime had occurred nearly a decade earlier. The case also demonstrated the appreciation of cryptocurrency over time and its impact on law enforcement seizures. The bitcoins that Zhang had stolen in 2012, when they were worth approximately $800,000, had grown to a value of over $3.3 billion by the time of his arrest. This appreciation meant that even relatively small cryptocurrency crimes from the early days of Bitcoin could represent massive financial recoveries for law enforcement agencies. Throughout 2018 and 2019, law enforcement agencies continued to build on the success of Operation Bayonet, launching dozens of additional investigations based on the blockchain evidence and intelligence gathered from Alphabet and Hansa. The permanent nature of blockchain records meant that investigators could continue to analyze transactions and identify new suspects months or even years after the initial marketplace takedowns. Advanced blockchain forensic tools were becoming increasingly sophisticated during this period. Blockchain forensics stands at the forefront of modern financial crime investigation. Law enforcement agencies, compliance teams, and cybersecurity experts now face sophisticated criminals who exploit blockchain's inherent features to mask their activities. Companies specializing in blockchain analysis were developing machine learning algorithms that could automatically identify suspicious transaction patterns and link cryptocurrency addresses to real-world identities. The evolution of these tools was driven in large part by the criminal community's own adaptation to blockchain forensics. As criminals became aware that their cryptocurrency transactions could be traced, they began employing more sophisticated techniques to obscure their activities. This included the use of cryptocurrency mixers, privacy coins like Monero, and complex transaction structures designed to break the link between input and output addresses. On March 26, 2019, German prosecutors announced the seizure of Hydra Market, which had become the largest darknet marketplace following the closure of Alphabet and Hansa. The investigation had relied heavily on blockchain forensics to trace cryptocurrency transactions from the marketplace to servers located in Germany. The seizure represented another major victory for international law enforcement cooperation and demonstrated the continuing effectiveness of blockchain forensic techniques against even the most sophisticated criminal operations. Hydra Market had processed over $5 billion in transactions during its operation, primarily facilitating the sale of illegal drugs within Russia and Eastern Europe. The marketplace had implemented numerous technical countermeasures designed to defeat blockchain analysis, including mandatory use of cryptocurrency mixers and complex multi-signature wallet structures. However, investigators were able to overcome these obstacles using advanced forensic techniques and traditional investigative methods. The Hydra investigation revealed the global nature of darknet crime and the need for continued international cooperation in combating these operations. Using it, law enforcement agencies identify criminal entities by examining on-chain activity like the movement of stolen or laundered crypto. The case demonstrated that even marketplaces operating primarily in local languages and serving regional criminal networks could be successfully investigated and prosecuted through the use of blockchain forensics. During 2020 and 2021, the COVID-19 pandemic led to a significant increase in darknet marketplace activity as traditional drug distribution networks were disrupted by lockdowns and travel restrictions. This surge in activity provided law enforcement agencies with additional opportunities to gather intelligence and build cases using blockchain forensics. The pandemic also accelerated the development and deployment of automated blockchain analysis tools. With Tracker, when authorities insert any cryptocurrency address, the solution will scan through both social media platforms and darknet sites. These tools allowed investigators to process vastly larger volumes of transaction data and identify suspicious patterns that might otherwise have gone unnoticed. The increased use of cryptocurrency for legitimate purposes during the pandemic also provided additional data points for blockchain forensics. As more businesses and individuals began using cryptocurrency for everyday transactions, it became easier for investigators to identify and trace the flow of illicit funds through the broader cryptocurrency ecosystem. On April 5, 2022, Europol announced the takedown of Dark Market, which had briefly become the world's largest darknet marketplace before being infiltrated and shut down by law enforcement. The investigation had used blockchain forensics to identify the marketplace's administrators and trace cryptocurrency payments to various individuals involved in its operation. Dark Market had implemented sophisticated security measures designed to protect its operators and users from law enforcement, including advanced encryption protocols and complex cryptocurrency transaction structures. However, investigators were able to exploit operational security failures and use blockchain analysis to build a comprehensive picture of the marketplace's financial operations. The case highlighted the continuing cat-and-mouse game between law enforcement and darknet operators. Each successful takedown led to improvements in criminal operational security, which in turn drove the development of more advanced forensic techniques and investigative methodologies. On June 25, 2025, Europol announced the takedown of Archetype Market, demonstrating that blockchain forensics remained a crucial tool in combating darknet crime more than a decade after the first Silk Road investigation. In June 2025, Europol took down the Archetype Market, with an estimated 3,200 registered vendors and 600,000 customers worldwide. The investigation had used the latest generation of blockchain analysis tools to trace cryptocurrency transactions across multiple blockchain networks and identify their marketplace's operators. The Archetype case represented the maturation of blockchain forensics as a standard law enforcement tool. What had once required months of manual analysis could now be accomplished in hours using automated tools and machine learning algorithms. The investigation demonstrated how far the field had evolved since the early days of the Silk Road investigation, when investigators had to manually trace Bitcoin transactions using basic blockchain explorers. Throughout the decades spanning 2013 to 2023, blockchain forensics evolved from an experimental investigative technique used in a handful of high-profile cases to a standard tool employed by law enforcement agencies worldwide. The success of early investigations like Silk Road and Operation Bayonet had demonstrated the potential of blockchain analysis, leading to increased investment in both tools and training. Professional blockchain forensic investigators became a recognized specialty within law enforcement agencies, with dedicated units established in major police departments and federal agencies around the world. Universities began offering courses in blockchain forensics, and professional certification programs were developed to ensure that investigators had the skills needed to effectively analyze cryptocurrency transactions. The development of the blockchain forensics field was driven by the unique characteristics of cryptocurrency transactions. The successful takedown of Silk Road not only disrupted a significant criminal operation, but also sent a strong message to other darknet markets. It demonstrated that law enforcement has the capability to track and investigate illicit activity on the blockchain. Unlike traditional financial systems, where transaction records might be held by multiple institutions and require numerous court orders to access, blockchain transactions are publicly visible and permanently recorded. By 2024, blockchain forensics had become so sophisticated that criminals were increasingly turning to privacy-focused cryptocurrencies like Monero and Scash in an attempt to evade detection. However, even these privacy coins were not completely anonymous, and investigators were developing new techniques to trace transactions on privacy-focused blockchains. The evolution of blockchain forensics was also being driven by the increasing mainstream adoption of cryptocurrency. As legitimate businesses and individuals began using cryptocurrency for everyday transactions, it became easier for investigators to identify points where illicit funds intersected with the legitimate economy. This created additional opportunities to identify and apprehend criminals using blockchain analysis. The success of blockchain forensics had also led to changes in criminal behavior. Many darknet marketplace operators began requiring the use of cryptocurrency mixers or privacy coins, implementing more complex transaction structures, and employing other techniques designed to obscure the flow of funds. However, these measures often introduced additional complexity and potential points of failure that investigators could exploit. The legacy of these investigations extends far beyond the specific cases and arrests they generated. The development of blockchain forensics as an investigative discipline has fundamentally altered how law enforcement approaches financial crimes in the digital age. The techniques pioneered in cases like Silk Road and Operation Bayonet are now being applied to a wide range of criminal activities, from ransomware attacks to terrorist financing. The permanent and immutable nature of blockchain records has created unprecedented opportunities for long-term investigations and cold case resolution. Unlike traditional financial records, which might be destroyed or become inaccessible over time, blockchain transactions remain permanently available for analysis. This has allowed investigators to solve crimes years or even decades after they were committed, as demonstrated in cases like the James Zhong Bitcoin theft. The international cooperation fostered by these investigations has also had lasting benefits for law enforcement agencies worldwide. The global nature of darknet marketplaces and cryptocurrency transactions has necessitated unprecedented levels of coordination between agencies in different countries. The relationships and protocols developed during operations like Bayonet continue to facilitate international law enforcement cooperation on a wide range of criminal activities. The success of blockchain forensics has also had a deterrent effect on potential criminals. The knowledge that cryptocurrency transactions can be traced and linked to real-world identities has made many would-be criminals reconsider their activities. While this has not eliminated darknet crime, it has certainly raised the bar for successful criminal operations and reduced the number of individuals willing to take the risk. Looking forward, the field of blockchain forensics continues to evolve in response to new technologies and criminal techniques. The emergence of decentralized finance, DeFi protocols, and non-fungible tokens, NFTs, has created new opportunities for both legitimate innovation and criminal exploitation. Investigators are developing new tools and techniques to analyze transactions on these platforms and identify suspicious activities. Artificial intelligence and machine learning are playing increasingly important roles in blockchain forensics, allowing investigators to process vastly larger data sets and identify subtle patterns that might be invisible to human analysts. These technologies are also being used to develop predictive models that can identify potential criminal activities before they occur. The regulatory environment surrounding cryptocurrency is also evolving, with governments around the world implementing new requirements for cryptocurrency exchanges and service providers to collect customer information and report suspicious activities. These regulatory changes are creating additional sources of intelligence for investigators and making it increasingly difficult for criminals to anonymously convert cryptocurrency to traditional currency. The story of blockchain forensics is ultimately a story of technological adaptation and human ingenuity. What began with a simple forum post announcing a new online marketplace has evolved into a comprehensive investigative discipline that has revolutionized how law enforcement approaches financial crimes. The techniques developed to investigate darknet marketplaces are now being applied to a wide range of criminal activities, from international money laundering to terrorist financing. The permanent and transparent nature of blockchain technology, initially seen as a barrier to law enforcement, has proven to be one of its greatest assets. The immutable record of transactions provides investigators with an unprecedented level of detail about criminal financial activities, allowing for investigations and prosecutions that would have been impossible in the traditional financial system. As we look toward the future, it is clear that blockchain forensics will continue to play a crucial role in law enforcement's fight against digital crime. The techniques and tools that were pioneered in the early days of darknet marketplace investigations continue to evolve and improve, staying ahead of criminal attempts to evade detection. The crypto trail that once seemed to offer perfect anonymity to criminals has instead become their downfall, providing law enforcement with the evidence needed to bring them to justice. The dozen years from the first Silk Road transaction to the latest darknet marketplace takedowns represent a paradigm shift in criminal investigation. The belief that cryptocurrency provided untraceable anonymity has been thoroughly debunked, replaced by the understanding that blockchain transactions create a more complete and permanent record of financial activity than any traditional system. This transformation has not only revolutionized how law enforcement investigates financial crimes, but has also fundamentally altered the risk-reward calculation for anyone considering criminal activity involving cryptocurrency. The investigations detailed in this documentary represent just the beginning of the blockchain forensics revolution. As the technology continues to evolve and mature, it will undoubtedly play an even more central role in law enforcement's fight against crime in the digital age. The crypto trail that criminals thought would hide their activities has instead illuminated them, creating an evidentiary record that will continue to bring justice for years to come. On January 15, 2019, the landscape of cryptocurrency crime took on a new dimension when the U.S. Treasury Department's Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, FinCEN, issued guidance clarifying that cryptocurrency exchanges and other virtual asset service providers were subject to Bank Secrecy Act requirements. This regulatory milestone represented a fundamental shift in how cryptocurrency businesses operated and provided law enforcement with unprecedented access to transaction data through formal reporting channels. The FinCEN guidance required cryptocurrency businesses to implement comprehensive anti-money laundering (AML) programs, including customer identification procedures, suspicious activity reporting, and record-keeping requirements. These regulatory changes created a treasure trove of intelligence for blockchain forensic investigators who could now correlate on-chain transaction data with detailed customer records maintained by regulated exchanges. Prior to this guidance, investigators had to rely primarily on court orders and subpoenas to obtain customer information from cryptocurrency exchanges. The new reporting requirements meant that suspicious cryptocurrency transactions were now being proactively flagged and reported to law enforcement agencies, creating a steady stream of intelligence that could be used to identify criminal activities in real time. On March 3, 2020, the Department of Justice announced indictments against two Chinese nationals, Tian Yinyin and Li Jiadong, for operating a $100 million cryptocurrency laundering scheme. The case demonstrated the global reach of blockchain forensics and the ability of investigators to track cryptocurrency flows across international boundaries and multiple blockchain networks. The investigation revealed that the defendants had operated a sophisticated money laundering operation that used a network of cryptocurrency exchanges and mixing services to obscure the source of illicit funds. Despite these efforts, blockchain forensic analysts were able to trace the flow of cryptocurrency through multiple intermediary addresses and identify the ultimate destination of the laundered funds. Court documents in the case provided detailed insights into the methodology used by blockchain forensic investigators. The prosecution presented evidence showing how investigators had used clustering algorithms to group related cryptocurrency addresses, temporal analysis to identify transaction patterns, and cross-referencing with exchange data to link pseudonymous addresses to real-world identities. The case demonstrated that even sophisticated money laundering schemes could be unraveled through careful blockchain analysis. On August 10, 2021, the Colonial Pipeline ransomware attack thrust blockchain forensics into the international spotlight when the FBI announced that it had successfully recovered 63.7 bitcoins of the ransom payment made to the DarkSide ransomware group. The recovery represented approximately $2.3 million of the $4.4 million ransom that had been paid by Colonial Pipeline following the cyber attack that shut down critical fuel infrastructure across the eastern United States. The FBI's success in tracking and seizing the ransom payment demonstrated the power of blockchain forensics in combating ransomware attacks. Deputy Attorney General Lisa Monaco stated that following the money remains one of the most basic yet powerful tools we have, emphasizing how blockchain's permanent transaction record had enabled investigators to trace the cryptocurrency payment through multiple addresses and ultimately identify a wallet that was within law enforcement's reach. The technical details of the recovery, as revealed in court filings, showed how investigators had used advanced blockchain analysis tools to track the Bitcoin payment as it moved through various addresses associated with the darkside operation. The investigation revealed that the ransomware operators had attempted to launder the payment through a mixing service, but investigators were able to identify the ultimate destination of the funds and obtain the private keys needed to seize the cryptocurrency. On February 8, 2022, the Department of Justice announced the largest financial seizure in department history, recovering over $3.6 billion in cryptocurrency connected to the 2016 Bitfinex exchange hack. The case against Ilya Lichtenstein and Heather Morgan demonstrated how blockchain forensics could be used to solve cold cases involving cryptocurrency theft, even when the original crime had occurred years earlier. The investigation revealed that Lichtenstein and Morgan had attempted to launder the stolen cryptocurrency through an elaborate scheme involving multiple wallets, darknet markets, and cryptocurrency exchanges. Despite their efforts, blockchain forensic investigators were able to trace the flow of the stolen funds through thousands of transactions over a period of nearly 6 years. Court documents in the case provided unprecedented insight into the techniques used by cryptocurrency criminals to launder stolen funds. The defendants had employed a variety of methods, including the use of cryptocurrency mixers, conversion to other digital assets, and purchases of gold and other commodities. However, the permanent nature of blockchain records had preserved evidence of all these activities, allowing investigators to build a comprehensive case against the defendants. The Bitfinex case also highlighted the appreciation of cryptocurrency over time and its impact on criminal proceeds. The approximately 120,000 bitcoins stolen in 2016 had been worth approximately $71 million at the time of the theft, but had grown to a value of over $4.5 billion by the time of the defendants' arrest. This appreciation meant that even relatively old cryptocurrency crimes could represent massive financial recoveries for law enforcement agencies. Throughout 2022 and 2023, the emergence of decentralized finance, DeFi protocols created new challenges and opportunities for blockchain forensic investigators. These protocols, which allow users to trade and interact with cryptocurrency without traditional intermediaries, initially appeared to offer new avenues for criminals to obscure their activities. However, investigators quickly developed new techniques for analyzing DeFi transactions and identifying suspicious activities. The transparency of most DeFi protocols, while designed to promote trust and decentralization, actually provided investigators with even more detailed information about user activities than traditional cryptocurrency transactions. Smart contract interactions, liquidity provision activities, and token swaps all left permanent records on the blockchain that could be analyzed to identify patterns of criminal behavior. One significant development during this period was the emergence of specialized blockchain forensic tools designed specifically for DeFi analysis. These tools could automatically identify interactions with known malicious smart contracts, trace the flow of funds through complex DeFi protocols, and flag suspicious activities such as sudden large withdrawals or unusual trading patterns. On November 11, 2022, the dramatic collapse of the FTX cryptocurrency exchange created new opportunities for blockchain forensic investigators as billions of dollars in customer funds went missing. The subsequent investigation into Sam Bankman-Fried and FTX revealed how blockchain analysis could be used to trace the misappropriation of customer funds and identify unauthorized transfers between related entities. Blockchain forensic investigators working on behalf of bankruptcy trustees and regulators were able to trace the flow of customer deposits through various FTX-controlled wallets and identify transfers to Alameda Research, Bankman-Fried's trading firm. The analysis revealed a complex web of transactions that showed how customer funds had been improperly used for trading activities and personal expenses. The FTX investigation demonstrated the value of blockchain forensics in civil and regulatory proceedings, not just criminal investigations. The permanent record of cryptocurrency transactions provided bankruptcy trustees with detailed evidence of asset transfers and helped maximize recoveries for defrauded customers. On May 19, 2023, the Department of Justice announced the takedown of the Bitslato cryptocurrency exchange, which had been operating as an unlicensed money-transmitting business that facilitated money laundering for cybercriminals. The investigation relied heavily on blockchain forensics to demonstrate the exchange's role in processing transactions for darknet markets, ransomware groups, and other criminal enterprises. Court documents revealed that Bitslato had processed over $700 million in cryptocurrency transactions, with a significant portion connected to illicit activities. Blockchain analysis had identified patterns showing that the exchange was deliberately facilitating money laundering by maintaining minimal customer verification procedures and processing large volumes of transactions from known criminal sources. The Bitslato case demonstrated how blockchain forensics could be used to build cases against cryptocurrency service providers that enabled criminal activities. By analyzing transaction patterns and identifying connections to known criminal entities, investigators were able to demonstrate that the exchange was operating as a criminal enterprise rather than a legitimate business. During 2024, artificial intelligence and machine learning became increasingly important tools in blockchain forensics, allowing investigators to process vastly larger data sets and identify subtle patterns that might be invisible to human analysts. These technologies were particularly valuable in analyzing privacy-focused cryptocurrencies and complex DeFi protocols, where traditional analysis techniques were less effective. Machine learning algorithms were trained on large datasets of known criminal transactions to identify patterns and characteristics that could be used to flag suspicious activities. These algorithms could process millions of transactions in minutes, identifying potential leads that would have taken human analysts weeks or months to discover through manual analysis. The integration of AI and machine learning into blockchain forensics also enabled predictive analysis capabilities, allowing investigators to identify potential criminal activities before they occurred. By analyzing historical transaction patterns and identifying early indicators of criminal behavior, law enforcement agencies could proactively investigate suspicious activities and potentially prevent crimes from occurring. The evolution of privacy-focused cryptocurrencies presented new challenges for blockchain forensic investigators, and cryptocurrencies like Monero, Zcash, and Dash were designed specifically to provide enhanced privacy and anonymity, making transaction analysis more difficult than with transparent blockchains like Bitcoin and Ethereum. However, investigators developed new techniques for analyzing privacy coin transactions, including timing analysis, network analysis, and correlation with transparent blockchain transactions. While these techniques were more complex and less definitive than traditional blockchain analysis, they still provided valuable intelligence that could be combined with other investigative methods to build cases against criminals using privacy coins. The arms race between privacy coin developers and blockchain forensic investigators continued throughout this period, with each side developing increasingly sophisticated techniques. Privacy coin developers implemented new cryptographic protocols designed to enhance anonymity, while forensic investigators developed new analysis methods to overcome these privacy protections. The emergence of cross-chain bridges and multi-chain ecosystems added new complexity to blockchain forensics. These technologies allowed users to move cryptocurrency between different blockchain networks, potentially obscuring the trail of transactions across multiple platforms. However, investigators developed new tools and techniques for tracking cross-chain transactions and maintaining visibility into criminal activities across different blockchain networks. Cross-chain analysis required investigators to coordinate data from multiple blockchain networks and correlate transactions across different platforms. This was particularly challenging when dealing with privacy-focused blockchains or networks with different transaction formats and data structures. Despite these challenges, successful investigations demonstrated that cross-chain transactions could be effectively traced and analyzed. The key was developing comprehensive analysis tools that could process data from multiple blockchain networks simultaneously and identify connections between seemingly unrelated transactions on different platforms. The international nature of cryptocurrency crime continued to drive improvements in law enforcement cooperation and information sharing. Bilateral and multilateral agreements between countries facilitated the rapid exchange of intelligence and evidence related to cryptocurrency investigations, enabling more effective prosecutions of international criminal networks. Organizations like Interpol and Europol developed specialized units focused on cryptocurrency, crime, and blockchain forensics, providing coordination and support for investigations spanning multiple jurisdictions. These organizations also facilitated the sharing of best practices and training programs to ensure that investigators worldwide had access to the latest forensic techniques and tools. The standardization of blockchain forensic methodologies across different jurisdictions was also important for ensuring that evidence collected in one country could be effectively used in prosecutions in another. International working groups developed common standards and protocols for blockchain analysis, ensuring compatibility and reliability of forensic evidence across different legal systems. As we approach the end of 2025, blockchain forensics has become an indispensable tool in the global fight against financial crime. What began as an experimental investigative technique used in a handful of high-profile cases has evolved into a mature discipline with standardized methodologies, professional certification programs, and sophisticated automated analysis tools. The success of blockchain forensics in combating darknet marketplaces, ransomware attacks, and other cryptocurrency crimes has fundamentally altered the criminal landscape. The myth of cryptocurrency anonymity has been thoroughly debunked, replaced by an understanding that blockchain transactions create a more complete and permanent record of financial activity than traditional payment systems. The deterrent effect of successful blockchain forensic investigations cannot be overstated. The knowledge that cryptocurrency transactions can be traced and linked to real-world identities has caused many potential criminals to reconsider their activities or seek alternative methods that do not involve cryptocurrency. This has not eliminated cryptocurrency crime, but it has significantly raised the bar for successful criminal operations and reduced the number of individuals willing to take the risk.